no canal do Jovem Nerd a minha conversa com um astrofísico, apresentador da série Cosmos, diretor do Hayden Planetary em Nova York e um dos maiores divulgadores científicos do século XXI, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
All right.
Nos últimos 20 anos, o Neil tem sido uma força de divulgação científica importantíssima. Ele é considerado como um sucessor do Carl Sagan nessa área, né? Uma pessoa letrada em ciência, respeitada pelos seus parceiros no seu campo e que tem o dom da palavra e da comunicação e sabe trazer todo esse conhecimento, não só da ciência, mas da forma de se pensar criticamente e cientificamente para pessoas normais, que não são cientistas, como eu mesmo. O trabalho que ele tem feito como comunicador transformou ele numa celebridade global. Aliás, que legal ver um cientista com esse peso de celebridade que o Neil tem. Mas muito tempo atrás, quando o e-mail dele ainda era conhecido publicamente, ele não tinha esse status de celebridade, ele recebia perguntas de todos os tipos, sobre ciência, sobre OVNIs, sobre espiritualidade, vida, morte, universo e tudo mais. E ele sempre que encontrava uma pergunta intrigante o suficiente para ele ter o tempo de responder individualmente para essa pessoa, ele fazia. E o resultado da compilação de mais de 100 dessas cartas está no livro Respostas de um Astrofísico, que está sendo publicado no Brasil pela editora Record e está em pré-venda exclusiva pela Nerd Store! Que orgulho! Agora neste link que você vê aqui embaixo. E eu convido você para clicar e já reservar o seu, porque é um livro delicioso de ler. É um livro feito para todo mundo, não é um livro técnico, científico, é o Neil respondendo a todo tipo de pergunta. E é isso que eu tentei fazer nessa conversa, fazer todo tipo de pergunta, falar sobre tantos assuntos diferentes. Olha, passou muito rápido das 1001 perguntas que eu tinha. Eu fiz algumas e você vê agora. My name is Alexander. Nice to meet you. I am producer of Jovem Nerds and of Nerdologia.
Anything with nerd in it, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. But I can't quantify the honor that we have, to have you on the show on Jovem Nerd talking to us, especially in Brazil, that we are so much in need for, critical thinking and scientific thinking these days, especially. And I'd like to thank you for your letter for Brazil. That it's in the book. I mean, it's an exclusive thing that we have.
Yes, it's just for you.
Let me start off by saying, letters from an astrophysicist. Unfortunately, I don't have a physical copy of the Brazilian print with me right now because as we are recording this, it's still in print. It will be ready very soon, but people are, it's on the screen. You can see.
But you got a chance to see that new letter because that's only for the Brazilian edition.
I read the book and I read the letter, and it's very fortunate that you would, that you acknowledge that, for foreigners, the vision of Brazil will be, think about the beaches and the carnival and all that stuff, but it's so much more to see and to applaud, especially on the scientific and engineering field, who has such a history of great achievers. And thank you for lifting this up. Many Brazilians, we don't often think about that stuff and how long way we can go if we can pay attention to scientific research and development.
I think you have to lead that effort. That's clear.
Yeah. And I think the book is coming on a very special moment that we really need to endure and say to people, guys, we need to teach people how to think more than we need to show them what is true or not.
Correct.
Right. Correct. So, and I like to reference to another book that I read when I was, as a teenager. My father gave me this book. That's Isaac Asimov's Guide to Earth and Space.
Excellent.
And it was translated to 111 questions about Earth and space. I remember when I got this book, it was the first science book that I read in my life. And I thought, well, I thought I had 5 or 6 questions about Earth and space. How come 111 questions?
How could there be that many?
That many. And I think the most valuable thing that I took from this book was not, getting answers for the 5 or 6 questions that I had. It was finding out about so many other questions that I didn't. And when I was reading through Letters from an Astrophysicist, I had this feeling. That's why I was, through my shelves. Not these, because this is completely fake.
It looks like I didn't want to say.
No.
I didn't want to call you out on that in case it was convincing.
Everybody knows it's fake, but I'm just dressing accordingly to the situation. But I went through my shelf and looked for that book because I had the same feeling, and I know that this book would impact this new generation and other teenagers like I was in the 90s, getting in contact with questions they didn't thought they would have.
So consider also that it's one thing to just have a question about the universe. Okay, I think we all have those. You had at least 3 such questions. Okay, but there are occasions when people have deeper questions that affect them personally, like what is my place in the universe, or where do I fit? And I think this, but the scientists say that. How do I reconcile? So at least half of the book, Letters from an Astrophysicist, are my replies to people who are in search of meaning in their life. And I'm honored that they would turn to me. They may have turned to a priest or a rabbi or an imam or a friend. They may have, but at some point in their life, they turned to me as an astrophysicist. So I felt obligated. I felt a duty to bring a cosmic perspective to all that I was sharing with people. And a cosmic perspective is quite a potent way to look at the world.
Right.
And it helps you reset and rebalance whatever might have been what you were thinking about yourself in connection to the world.
And that's a funny thing. You said, people, in search of meaning, going through philosophical questions, they will often turn to someone who is, like you said, a priest or anyone that will focus on answering philosophical questions. But why do you think that is? They will turn to a scientist in search for that. Do you think that people are trying to cope, their religious beliefs and their traditions with this new knowledge that they know, oh, this makes sense, so it can't be wrong. How can I cope with those things?
Yeah, I forgot how many of those letters are. Oh, it's interesting. Your Asimov book is at 111 questions. I think this book has 106 questions or something. So we're in close resonance. Me and Isaac,
Yeah.
Isaac Asimov. These people may have first gone to their trusted deep thinkers in their lives. I don't know. But I think people in the back of their head, let's say they're part of a long religious tradition. They know many of these traditions go back thousands of years, and they know science is saying something new, different about the world. And they know that what scientists say about the world is shaping civilization as we know it.
Yeah.
It influences your smartphone and your car, your airplane, all the technology that's around you. So they know there's something authentic and genuine about what it is to study science, technology, engineering, and math. So I think they're trying to understand where their thoughts should land, given what they've been taught from childhood and given what they've learned. And some things do not reconcile, right?
Yeah.
If you are sure that the universe was created in 6 days and is no more than 10,000 years old, that deeply conflicts with established scientific truths. But if Jesus is your savior, for example, no one in a free country, no one's going to take that away from you. There's a lot of religious teachings, religious perspectives that deal introspectively with you. it's if there are texts that are written 2,000 years ago that are making statements about the physical world. Science and the methods and tools that empower it are exquisitely designed to figure out how the world works. That's why why you have telescopes and microscopes and particle accelerators and petri dishes and laboratories. It's why we can send a laboratory to Mars, and it's going on the surface of Mars and asking questions that we have here on Earth. So all I'm saying is enlightened religious people don't have a problem because they embrace science and where science is taking them. But they retain religious traditions. Many Jewish people are atheists. But what do? They still celebrate the holidays because that's a cultural thing. It's a family thing. It's an excuse to get together.
Yeah.
Who cares if it could be a religious excuse or a secular holiday? In the United States, we have two secular holidays. One is Thanksgiving, where we all overeat the meal that surrounds a turkey. And then there's New Year's Day, obviously is a secular holiday, but that's a holiday for the whole world. Most of the other holidays are religious based. And so it's an excuse to gather, to reflect. And I think traditions are powerful and important elements of what it is to be human, and especially human in a society. So I never want to take that away from people. By the way, science has some traditions. I celebrate the day Earth is closest to the sun. It's Merry Perihelion, and it happens around January 3rd. And so there's shirts that say Merry Perihelion on it, just in case you want to know.
Well, guys at NASA, they eat peanuts when they, right?
When a launch, right after a launch, there's a tradition. They don't say that it's superstitious, right?
But it's a tradition.
It's just a tradition.
Sure. I mean, if you can't do anything, just wait, then you might as well as, eat some peanuts.
Right, unless you have a peanut allergy, which no one had in the 1960s when that's a late day invention.
Right.
Or maybe people did have peanut allergies in the 1960s, but they just died, right? And then they just weren't there. And no one thought about them. No one cared about them.
But I think you touched on a sensitive subject. Is that thing of people afraid of science coming in and taking something away from them?
Well, okay. Right? That's a very important question. So first of all, if you are certain the universe was created in 6 days, we're taking that away from you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Can't do anything about that.
6 days, okay, and the universe is 10,000 years rather than 14 billion. There is no. Well, let's split the difference. No, that doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But what you should consider is, yes, there's certain things that are objectively false when the methods and tools of science are brought to bear on the question. Okay? But there are other things that science is giving you. And what it gives you may be more than what it's taking away. So, as an example, and again, this comes from a cosmic perspective. All right? Now, this is in the book, I think, multiple times. I remind you, if you once knew or you learned for the first time, that the atoms in your body were forged in the high temperature centers of stars that lived billions of years ago. And they make these elements, the carbon, the nitrogen, the silicon, the iron, all these elements that are not hydrogen and helium that you find in your body were forged in stars. And these stars grew old and died explosively. And so all of this enrichment scatters across the galaxy, infuses the next generation of gas clouds that condense and form the next generation of star systems, one of which is our solar system. So we are not just in this universe, the universe is in us. And it's not just figuratively true, it's literally true that we are stardust. So when you look up at the night sky, don't think of how small you are compared to it. Think of how large you are connected in that way to the stars of the night sky and the star of the daytime sky, the sun. For me, that's a really big add to your sense of place in the universe relative to whatever science might have taken away from you.
That's poetic. And I think that you can find philosophy in the cosmic perspective. I remember that I went through that process of thinking, well, maybe is there a God? Is there a life after death or not? Growing up, even though I was reading about science since I was a teenager, I was fighting that off. I mean, I don't think I can bear the idea of dying and just vanishing. But I came to a peaceful solution, thinking of maybe, I can't choose. One thing or another is true. Or maybe if there's life after death, we all win. Or maybe if there's not, what can we do? What can we do to change it? Nothing. If we can't do anything to change it, let's embrace this life and this miracle moment that we have, and being conscious in this universe, to be able to look up and think about all that stuff, right?
So if I understand what you're saying whatever it is, or whatever it will be, it will be. What we know for sure is that you're alive now.
Yeah. And I think if you can cope the feeling between, having faith or not, is if you can find something in between that will talk to both perspectives, is that this life is precious.
I think it's more precious than you even are thinking right now, if I may tell you why. We are born fearing death because we are born knowing only life, right? We have no context to even see death. And so religion fills that gap. It does it quite mightily, I'd say. Most religions have a whole explanation for what happens after death. Science does too, by the way. It's just not as glorious as your religious death, unless you believe you're going to a hell or some other. The Jews don't have a hell in their religion, but in Christianity, there's a hell. So maybe you don't want to die because you know you're going to go to hell. Okay, that's a separate issue. That's a different podcast. Okay, get someone who's pretty sure they're going to hell and find out how religious they are. They might say, "Oh, I don't believe any of that anymore." So consider this, and I'm quoting in part some of the words of Richard Dawkins, the evolutionary biologist. He says this a little more starkly than I do. He'll say that we are the lucky ones because we get to die.
Because we have known life. Right?
Because we have known life.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. It's even deeper than that. Because if you look at the human genome and you look at the combinations of genes that can make a perfectly functioning human being, okay, there's your genome, there's my genome. These are two different genomes. We're both human, but what makes us different are the differences in those two genomes. Okay, so we can ask the question, how many combinations of genomes will give you a person? Okay, so in other words, how many total possible humans can a genome create? All right, about 100 billion people, about maybe a little less, have been born ever since we've been human. But there are trillions of possible humans that could be born. Trillions. Only a small fraction have been born. And most, we suspect, will never be born. So the fact that you are alive at all, you, me, the fact that we are alive at all is against extraordinary odds, against not having even been born in the first place.
Yeah.
So when I wake up and I say, I'm going to die one day. And by the way, I think about that. When people, if they get a disease and they die young, they die of an accident, they die. There's a lot of tragedy in this world. And people have a hard time coping with it. You know how I cope with it? It is however long you lived, even if you died of cancer at an early age, or however long you lived, even if your life was cut short, how lucky you were to have been alive at all. Because most other options are never having been born. And I bet if you're playing the lottery and you said you want to play this lottery and never have been born, or play this other lottery and be born, but maybe you die a little early. I'm going to die early because I want to be alive.
Yeah.
Rather than the other option where you've never been born. So that empowers me emotionally and intellectually to celebrate the lives of people who will not live out their full 80 years or 90 years. And I've even shared that sentiment with those who had terminal cancer, and they found it actually comforting. And however you can comfort knowing you're going to die. We're all going to die, but some people know how soon. That's really the only difference here. By the way, a lot of that is in the book. There are people there who wrote to me. He said, look, I just found out I've got 6 months to live, but I want to write to my favorite teachers. And you're one of them. He said this to me. I just want to say thank you for your lessons over the years and your videos and your books. And I just want to say before I die, I didn't want to die without you knowing this. So here's somebody who knows when he's going to die, approximately, but he's now trying to get his life in order. He's going to send out the kind words where you might not have thought to do so before. And maybe if everyone knew the day they were going to die, that they would be a little bit more compassionate. Maybe it would give more focus to their days that they are alive. This is one reason I've been asked this many times. If I could live forever, would I? And I don't know if I want to live forever. If you can live forever, you could postpone anything you would have done today until tomorrow. And if you live forever, there's an infinite number of tomorrows.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a day I'm not going to be on this earth. So I better get back to work. One of my favorite quotes from a famous educator, his name is Horace Mann, and I want this quote on my tombstone, okay? It'll say, be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity. There it is.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Meaning to life, knowing you're going to die. And I got one more example of that. I want to hear more from you too, because I've been blathering. I've been doing talking here. My wife called this to my attention some years ago. Let's say you have a loved one, and okay, you're going to bring your loved one some flowers. If you brought plastic flowers, how do you think they would be received by your loved one?
Yeah, not quite so.
Not quite
enthusiastic.
But wait, the plastic flowers live forever. And they probably cost more than the real flowers.
Yeah.
So why don't you appreciate it? I think I know why you don't appreciate it. You don't appreciate it because the living flower you know is going to die on your tabletop. And so that forces you to focus attention in the moment to what that flower is offering you, because you know you will not have it forever. That is the lesson there of the live flower versus the plastic flower. We inherently appreciate that which we know will not always be there. And I think people who take other people for granted just forget that one day they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
Maybe you should rethink what that relationship is so you can embrace every day rather than presume that every day is just going to be like the previous one. And Frank Sinatra once said, I don't totally endorse this, but I'll say it anyway. He says, live every day of your life like it's your last, because one day you'll be correct. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, I wonder if having you on the show would, create this mind-blowing moments. And that is true. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think this should be a title of your next book. Neil deGrasse Tyson blows your mind. No,
that's not on purpose. If it happens to, fine, I think everyone should have their mind blown at least once a week. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good recipe for
once a
mental
month,
health. Once a
minimum.
month. Yeah, at least. I got my mind blown the other day with a question from my daughter. I have a 6-year-old daughter. My wife and I were tucking her in bed, and lights out, she's in bed, and suddenly she goes, "Mommy, Daddy, why does the universe exist?" And I thought, I was, whoa, what? I thought immediately, 6 years, Neil, from an embryo to why the universe exists.
Ain't that something?
Ain't that something?
Ain't that something? So I hope your answer was, and tell me her name.
Giselle.
Okay, I hope your answer was, Giselle, I don't have any idea. Maybe you will figure this out one day. And then send them off. Okay? I think at parenting, we have this expectation of ourselves that when the kid asks you questions, you just always have an answer. But consider, if you always lock a question back with an answer, then there's no place for free thought. There's no place to wonder, because it's wondering just ends there. And of course, if you know the answer, definitely share it. But you might say, oh, I had that question once too. Here's how I found the answer. And then together you pull one of your fake damn books off your shelf. Okay, here it is.
Well, I'll tell you.
You're going to think of you in your fake books. Just
Right,
think about that.
right.
Think about that.
Well, I'll tell you, her mother, I was trying to formulate an answer, but her mother went first, and she said, well, we don't know. And not even the brightest scientist on earth knows. And maybe someday we'll find out. No.
So maybe someday you'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
And send it back to the child.
She's in the why phase, so I don't think that she has any understanding of how deep her question was, because she keeps asking why for everything. But somehow she picked up the existence of the universe as the next why. Because we talk a lot about science, because I'm a science buff, although I have all these fake books. but we do have real books about science, and we
I don't believe you.
I think the best answer that she could have is, any child can have, is the notion that most things we don't know. And it's okay not knowing.
I wouldn't even say it's okay not knowing. I would say it's amazing that we don't know.
Yeah.
It's not just a fallback. We don't know this, get over it. It's we don't know this. Oh my gosh, let's figure it out.
Great.
It's an adventure.
I have a big podcast. Nerdcast is how our show is called. It was the third podcast in the world to reach 1 billion downloads. So very proudly to say that. Wow. And because we're being on air since 2006, so it's a lot of talking. And
you would have been a baby back in 2006.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So nice. But then, people keep asking us to do a show about UFOs. Oh, you should talk about UFOs. And, I have a perspective on that, very skeptic perspective. And we did, once upon a time, we did a show about ancient aliens. And since I was the skeptic one, I was labeled as the boring, annoying guy. I totally understand why this image came to be, because I got passionate about it. And I was listening to myself, seeing that I was so passionate about it, and I lost my audience at some point, being passionate. Or being bored, being annoying. Because I was being annoying.
So if I can offer some advice.
Right.
If I may.
Sure.
Okay.
It's the best teacher I have.
You want to devote at least 20% of your thinking to what is being thought in the person you're speaking to.
Right.
So here you have a UFO enthusiast who wants to believe that aliens are visiting us. Get inside their head. Okay? If 20% of your thoughts derive from their thoughts, then when you give your rebuttals, it'll be in an easier place for them to embrace. So, for example, someone says, these are UFOs. Okay, yeah, I don't know what they are. That's how you get the U in UFO. The U stands for unidentified. I think they're cool. We should research them more. But look what they're doing. They must be aliens visiting from outer space. And I said, you just admitted you don't know what they are. You just called them unidentified. Period. There's no rest of the sentence after that. There's an unidentified thing. It must be, no, once you say you don't know what it is, must be anything, right? So I have the universe brims with mysteries. And some of them are lights in the sky that do weird things. Definitely investigate them. But I'll call to your attention the fact that 20 years ago, there were many, many reports of alien abductions. Okay? Well, everyone has a video camera now. Everyone has a high-resolution camera, video and still photography. I just checked with a friend of mine at Google, 6 billion images and videos are uplifted to the internet every day.
Wow.
Where are all the encounters with aliens? If there were that many alien encounters before we had the capacity to record this, the internet should be awash with encounters with aliens. And it's not. You would have streaming video of an alien walking up to the person to shake your hand. That would be viral instantly. But where is it? All we have are fuzzy videos. And why do the aliens always want to show up only in front of the military? Why is it just military jets? Okay. What's up with that? And if your best evidence is a fuzzy monochromatic image from a fighter pilot airplane, that's your best image of an alien? It's definitely an image of something you can't identify. But if that's your best image of an alien, I'm going to still wait. And tell them, you go out, keep chasing them, and come back with some better evidence than fuzzy video footage. And then we'll have a conversation. I don't have a problem with that. So that at least recognizes in their sense of the world that there are these things that we haven't explained. By the way, you can also say some percentage of them are things you can't explain because you're not familiar with them. Okay? I have very high experience seeing things in the night sky that would defy normal explanation. There are cloud formations. There's Venus is in the sky. You might know that Venus gets very bright in the evening or in the morning sky. It's our closest planet to us. It has a very reflective cloud cover. And so it's brighter than airplanes coming in for a landing. I'll just give you an example. There was a police officer, I think it was in New Jersey, who said he was tracking a UFO and that the UFO was dodging back and forth in front of him in his squad car. And he was chasing it with siren blaring. Okay.
With siren, okay. That's
he was chasing it. Turns out he was chasing Venus.
Oh.
And he happened to be on a curving road. So he was steering back and forth, but not thinking he was steering back, because police officers tend to be very good drivers. He's steering, but not thinking that. He's focusing on Venus, and he sees Venus dodging back and forth left and right.
Right.
That entire incident got reported as an alien UFO being chased by a squad car. So whatever percent of these sightings, some percent of them, I don't know what, is it half maybe or more, have entirely ordinary, uninteresting explanations. The rest could still be mysteries. Go ahead, chase them down. I will not stop you.
Somebody asked me once in Instagram, do you believe if there's life on Mars or not? And I responded, well, it's not a yes or no question. You could reserve judgment until you have evidence for that. But you're
being way too rational there. No.
Really? Am I?
No, that's what's wrong with you. No, I'm not having a beer with you.
I think that this goes for the UFO phenomenon. That people don't want to reserve judgment. You said there's maybe a percentage that we can't explain, and there's still mysteries. But why do we need to, label the mysteries what we want it to be?
Here it is. I have a hypothesis. It's that people don't know enough science to realize how many mysteries are still there in science.
Right.
All right. We have no evidence that'll convince a skeptic of psychic phenomenon, paranormal phenomenon, aliens visiting, all these things. But if you like the unknown, learn some science, and then you'll find out where the edge of that unknown is, and then maybe that will feed this need for you. We don't know what's inside a black hole. We don't know what was around before the universe. We don't know if there's a multiverse. We don't know how you went from organic molecules to self-replicating life. There's so much we don't know. And for me, and for the scientist, the person who's trained to think on that frontier, we are dumbfounded every single day. If you think we're scientists sitting in the office, up on the desk, masters of our knowledge, you don't understand what science is.
Do you think that science is in crisis right now?
No. Wait, what do you mean, it's crisis?
I mean, especially after the pandemic, where, if you go to subjects like climate change, you had a ton of people say, you can't pull your finger on that. They will argue whatever they can to say that it's not true, that it's there's other options, although there's enough evidence to prove that it is human-induced. When the coronavirus pandemic came, I thought, okay, this is going to explode reality in people's faces, and they won't be able to deny science and what scientists are saying. But even still, I was amazed of how resistant part of society was in denying painful reality that exploded in everybody's faces.
Well, there's an entire community of people who walk among us who feel pretty sure that Earth is flat. So given that they exist, I'm not surprised by the reactions to the coronavirus. I wish it was surprising, but it wasn't surprising to realize how many people in denial. By the way, if you could color code the virus and watch it come out of people's mouth, maybe we'd have a different sense of things, of what to duck and avoid and what precautions to take. But we have this deep inherent sense that seeing is believing. If you can't see it, it's not there, or you're just trying to get control of us. We failed this experiment. No, we got a C- in this experiment. What's the experiment? It's an alien invasion where they just want to kill us. That's what the coronavirus is. It doesn't care what your skin color is, what your nationality is, who you worship, who you hang out with, who you sleep with, okay? It doesn't care. It cares that you're human. Then it will infect you. That's just like aliens coming. We're going to kill all the humans. If aliens came, we'd all band together, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
We'd drop our differences, and however different you think you are from other humans, you are more alike than either of you are to that alien, all right? So we'd all band together and protect Earth. This is our place, all right?
Yeah.
Get out there, weapons, and so this for me was a test run on that, and it's clear to me that they don't know how to deal with something they can't see, even when scientists tell them that it's there. So I'm saddened by it in this test run. I worry for the future of civilization. By the way, I'm hosting Cosmos. Cosmos is all about hope. In it, we talk about the challenges that the world faces, but also offer hope. We don't say, we're all going to die. That sells tickets. All problems. So each episode presents a problem and a challenge that we faced, and then offers a solution where we become better shepherds of the methods and tools of science, technology, engineering, and math, so that our descendants will be proud rather than embarrassed by us.
We have a big community of science divulgers in Brazil. They created a label called Science Vlogs, to label the channels and shows that, are
collectively, yes, very
collectively
good.
They're scientific accurate and have this responsibility with research and objective truths. And also the Nerdologia is a channel that we produce. It's called Nerdology.
I know.
The
It's
studio.
very creative use of words. Yes.
Thank you. And they all have a mission. It's trying to fight off this ignorance and everything that you described.
We could say that everything you've been doing has been failing.
Oh, no.
Look at the anti-science sentiment that's out there.
Yeah.
Clearly you have failed. Just give up. All the clever word use and nerdology and nerdojolia, whatever.
Right.
We could say that, or we could say, imagine how much worse it would have been without it.
Thank you so much.
So
Yeah.
I'm going with that.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate. I did not know how my letter to Brazil would be received
Wow.
because it was not written to Brazilians. It was written to Brazil.
Right.
It was
Yeah. I
the
got
country.
it. Right.
Okay. And I said, you have the Amazon, you know that, but and we have Amazon too. It's called Amazon.com.
It's a quite different version of it.
Got different versions, but no, I'm just a little bit playful, but it's mostly serious. A very serious appeal to Brazil as a country to rise up and fulfill its, or continue to fulfill, even if you didn't know it had been happening, fulfill a legacy of being a leader in science and technology and industry. Just look at the history. It's there. So, anyhow, delighted to be your guest.
Delighted. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Once
Excellent.
again.
Take it. Bye.
Gente, lembrando, o livro está em pré-venda exclusiva pela Nestor, no link aqui no post. Tem brindes! Olha só, tem uma ecobag personalizada, tem marcador de livro e tem um adesivo. Tudo nessa pré-venda. Lê esse livro, que é muito bom.